So you guys both saw the movie Green Room. So Dean, I'll let you start out with what you thought of that.
Well, Green Room is about a group of punk musicians who are at the end of their tour, and they take a suggestion to go to this to play this gig at an Oregon, compound. And they don't really know much about the gig, and then they arrive and they realize that it's for neo-Nazi skinheads, which, by the way, is a part of the movie that doesn't really pay off. Oh, they're neo-Nazi skinheads. Oh, and then there's like a little line in it where one of the band members says, "Oh, be careful, or I'll tell them you're Jewish," or something to the other band member to threaten them. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. But that never really pays off. Anyway, basically, one of the members, right before they're packing up for the gig, accidentally sees a dead body in the green room, and then all hell breaks loose. Basically, and that's basically the story. It's kind of for me, the director Jeremy Saulnier, who did Blue Ruin, I think a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
which is his second movie, by the way. Blue Ruin is his second. So this is his third movie. Mm-hmm. But this film really feels to me. I mean, it's beautifully shot. Sean Poster is the name of the cinematographer. It's in widescreen. It's actually quite well shot. But for me, even though I recognize its effectiveness as a thriller, for me it just rang of like a kind of a horror movie in a different disguise. Really, it just everybody gets kind of picked off one by one, either the villains or the heroes, and for me the only thing I remember about the film when I'm out of it now is all I remember is the kill shots, really. And I really think that this is a movie for gore fans, really. I mean, what I have to say about the gore in it is that it is skillfully done. It is done in a way where you only get glimpses of it. It doesn't revel in the gore totally.
Well, I think that's to its advantage, though, that it doesn't. It's not.
I agree, but in the end, I mean, I guess it's just a movie that's just supposed to be a thriller, and that's it. But I really didn't know anything about the characters enough to have very much investment in which of them lives or dies. And I think the movie was afraid to bore its audience with any kind of character development. So basically, when people do start dying, I'm like, oh, nothing, whatever.
Well,
so it's
I understand where you're coming from with that, but I actually felt in the interview in the beginning with the guy who turns out doesn't really have anything to offer, where they're doing the interview for the zine. I thought you got it. He set everything up, all their character traits and everything.
Well, I mean, the biggest character traits were the things about their desert island bands or whatever, and that's about the biggest thing that we're let in on.
But I also think you've got something. It's very telling that the first song they play, they're at a skinhead, not neo-Nazi skinhead club. The first song they play is "Nazi Punks Fuck Off" by the Dead Kennedys. And that's just that's a ballsy move. It does show you that Anton Yelchin's character does have some very big balls, because I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have played that. I would have played something completely different. I wouldn't have gone for that one. But I thought.
So that's why everybody in the audience was like mad at him, because they were covering another song.
Well, they're playing a song that is historically a very anti-neo-Nazi song from the Kennedy. So I know it's a very.
That's a detail that I didn't get because I don't know anything.
Because when they played that, I was just like I cringed when they decided to play that.
But nothing comes of that neo-Nazi angle in the movie. I mean, like it's there in the background and everything, but in the dialogue between the guys and all that kind of stuff, you don't really get a real sense of them being driven by that particular purpose. You know.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, the closest we come to, I actually think the most telling line in that regard is when it's at the end of the night, when the actual concert part is done, and Patrick Stewart goes, "It's a movement, not a party." That was a great line, because he's just, you can tell he's done this probably for now several decades, and I guess his character, I want to say, is based on Tom Metzger, who is one of the big. He was just interviewed about Donald Trump recently, but one of the big neo-Nazi founders in this country, who is trying to get the youth involved, and I want to say his character is like sort of a mixture of not so much David Duke, but really of Metzger here, because that's what he reminds me of. Because getting the whole thing of getting the music, the punk, the whole skinhead white power music movement involved in the white national movement has really always been his light, and what they always credit him with. So he was. I always thought, while watching the movie, I couldn't help but think, oh, he's sort of based on Metzger. So there is this real world thing. I understand what you're saying, though. No, they don't take that far enough. I think they take it far enough in a graphic sense. I think with the dogs.
Well, I think it's there. I think it's there. They're just there as a type of monster. I mean, instead of Jason with the mask, there's these guys. You know. And by the way, I really liked again Mason Blair in the movie plays who was the lead in Blue Ruin.
Blue Ruin.
He plays like a manager of the place that's kind of half on and half on board with all this stuff and half not, like really. And I thought he was very good at it.
And I
questioned, Anton Yelchin being this, who's the lead in the movie, being this sort of crybaby kind of character that wow, how odd, a crybaby, which is kind of creative, I guess.
There is a scene in the movie, though, that is, I think is one of the most effective scenes in the whole movie, and that's the door sequence, when they're there trying to keep the door shut, and he puts his arm outside.
Yes.
You don't know we have an idea what's on the other side of the door, but when he comes back in, his arm is all, just mangled. And that's effective.
It's really for me, it's the glimpses of violence, the glimpses of gore that really stand out to me.
Okay.
I thought that they were effectively surprising. So I can't really say that I despise the movie. Really, it's not really my kind of movie.
Right.
But if you are a horror fan, this is basically a horror movie in another disguise.
May I ask you a question? Would you put this on your list that you had a couple years ago, like best horror movies that aren't actually horror movies per se? Would you put this on that list?
Not for me. No, not really. It really isn't a movie for me. It needs some more character and some more subtext or something, in it. I just didn't think it was really about anything other than
I think it was about getting out of there alive.
Getting out of there alive. That's all it is. But that's exactly what all horror movies are.
Yeah, it is sort of like the it's a different kind of cabin in the woods, but it is a place you want to get out of. I do think though there's an effective scene at the very, very, very end of the movie, and
You mean the very last sequence?
With the dog, when the dog comes back, that dog is traveled.
That was
just, because you wouldn't even think about it. And you're thinking, that dog was only concerned, wanted to go back to his master. His master is a monster, though. Just an absolute monster. But he just wanted to go. And when he puts his head down, I was just like, wow.
That was interesting. Yeah.
It's a nice touch. It's not something. It was the last thing. If I was making the movie, as much as I like dog, that'd be the last thing I would even think about adding in a movie like that. But I just
well,
thought
it was actually
really
surprising that just to let people know, none of the dogs are killed. Although they do, I don't know, but you don't see any real harm come to the dogs as far as we can tell, at least.
Right.